Evidently, that means it is working. And welcome to another edition of the Trusty 8 podcast. I'm hoping to have a very different type of conversation tonight about relationships and what makes them successful. What is the bond that keeps us together? Pairing is essential to the way that we interact, the way that we reproduce. It's absolutely one of the most crucial factors in all of human existence. And so I like to try to get to the bottom of that. And so hopefully shortly Christopher and Deidra will be joining me here and we'll talk about what makes a successful relationship and some of the hardships involved in that. I have to open by saying I had a very long night. I was I was at Paul Kamish's channel this morning. He's going to be going on Modern Day Debate, and shout out, subscribe to Paul Kamish. I'll try to post a link here somewhere once I get the opportunity to do that. Um, uh, so I am, well, let's just say I'm in a flux. And as I mentioned last night in my stream, I'm coming out of kind of a depressive cycle to a bit of a manic cycle. And I've been getting into it with some people. I mean, it keeps the blood flowing, doesn't it? I mean, sometimes you have to have a good confrontation. Win or lose doesn't really matter. Not that that's what I ever intend to do. It's just something that happens from time to time. It's one of our apish tendencies, right? So let's see if I can put this on and not cause a fucking echo on the stream. And I'm also going to message Christopher here and see if he's ready to come on. Okay, I just sent that message out by Twitter. And yeah, I was just checking out Mama Atheist live stream. If you're not viewing it live now, then it'll probably pop shortly. I know how the YouTube StreamYard feed works and stuff like that. So sometimes it takes a while, but uh, very worthwhile listen if you want to go in there. And Chris Mallard has a new video up. Go check that out. I have a voice. I'm going to use it on a live stream tonight. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just talk to myself here and yeah, relationships are toughy, man. Like I've never been very successful at them, and I've been in 3 long-term relationships in my adulthood, and all of them consisted about 3 years. So numerology fans, come at me because I've considered this. I'm not into numbers. In fact, I fucking hate numbers. Personally, I mean, I don't distrust numbers. I trust people that understand math better than I do, but I don't understand it, and numbers make my fucking brain hurt. So come at me with some numerology, bro. I've been feeling a little salty lately. As I said, I got into it yesterday with a guy at the gas station who refused to put on his mask. And I got into it this morning with some mods and other people on MathPig's Discord server. Um, all debts paid. Prayers to he the bee, and I've been forgiven. But it's a rough transition, and dealing with this in your interpersonal relationships, if ever you have them, because I know some people who have been celibate a mighty long time, and hey, maybe it's for the better. I have 4 kids with 2 women, and I can't get along with any of them. It's freaking ridiculous, right? So here we stand, and that's why I want to talk to couples who have been at this, who are well, we'll see. Oh, I got a retweet. There's John Peterson. Much love for the retweet. I don't know if my guest is going to show up tonight. I sent him a message, so it may just be one of those things. But Christopher and I had a wonderful conversation on my other channel last night, and I think we have a good mutual respect, a good line of dialogue going on, and I'm just trying to learn more about him and his mindset. You know, I've said before on my channel, I have a very diverse group of friends, and um, you know, getting them to open up with me and not making them feel threatened is the most important part. I I have a problem with being hypercritical and hostile with people, and I really don't want to do this. So, um, so now I'm learning to have better dialogues, and I have somebody backstage. Oh, it's Christopher.
Hey, sorry.
Oh, how you?
Looks like I was a couple minutes late to the party here.
No problem. I wasn't sure if you were coming, but yeah, we just got a couple of retweets too. So yeah,
Oh,
happy
that's
to
fun.
see you.
Cool.
So are you and Deidra both here? No?
Yes, hi.
Okay. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to
Um,
meet you.
all right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel. Um, and as I was just saying, I'm just trying to explore uh, what makes a successful and healthy relationship. And so let's start with how long have you two been together?
It'll be 8 years in August.
All right, that's amazing. So yeah, give a little bit of background for anybody who's not familiar with you. and where you come from and stuff like that.
Christopher, you want to start?
Sure. Well, I mean, do you mean where I personally come from, or what?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, anything you're comfortable with. You don't have to give your location necessarily. I just mean, like
I mean,
about yourselves.
okay. I mean, I personally, I was born in California. I moved to Ohio when I was like 5, almost 6, and I grew up in Cincinnati. I um, moved out of my mother's house, moved in with my stepfather and my brothers, my half brothers, when I was about 17, and then I was living in Columbus at that time, and I met Deidra when I was working at my second job ever. That was at a movie theater called AMC in Columbus.
Excuse me. I grew up here in Ohio. I've never lived anywhere else before I moved out of my parents' house when I was about 16. Um, yeah, there's not really much more than that. Then I met Christopher. Yeah, when it was my second job ever too, actually, ironically, um, at AMC at the movie theater. Yeah. So now we're just adulting like everyone else, trying to find our way through it. And,
Slowly but surely,
yeah,
more or less.
yeah.
Do you have any children as of yet, if I may ask?
No.
We don't. We do want children,
Yes.
but we don't currently have any.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's an amazing experience. Um, okay, so
Oh yeah, you're a
I'm just
father. I'm jealous.
I'm just gonna bust out the elephant in the room because we are off camera, but you two are what is commonly referred to as a interracial couple. Is that correct?
Yes.
That is accurate. Yes,
Yes.
I am white.
Okay.
She is black.
Yes.
Has that had a big effect in your personal lives or anything like that?
Yes, as you could probably guess from our laughter reaction, but it hasn't been as negative as you could probably guess.
It's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
It's been both. In a way, it's been just as negative and even more negative than you could even imagine. But also what Deidre's saying, like it's I guess it's a real paper tiger, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I can understand that, and I one of my sons is of mixed ethnicity as well, and so
Oh,
it's
fascinating.
yeah. Well, my son is half Latino, so uh,
Wait, did you say one of your
it's
sons?
yeah. I have one son and 3 daughters. But
Oh,
my son is uh, part Mexican, and
okay.
it's come up over and over within my family. Well, like what are going to be the effects of this? And as far as I could tell, the only effects were them bringing it up.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
Right.
I mean, for how interracial children are treated on a day-to-day basis today, I don't think, depending on where you live, of course. At least I'm sure in certain areas it's a lot worse than what I've seen people experience. Because personally, I have 6 nieces and nephews, and they're all interracial. I also have 2 sisters who are not interracial. They're biracial. Excuse me. They're biracial, and uh, if anything, I would say that today that's like a positive, in the younger generations, depending on where you live. Obviously, this is how I see them viewed as their peers, and also as like key adults around them, like teachers and other role models of that nature. But for us, going back to our relationship, I mean, there have been definitely some negatives. Like, I mean, but we personally have a mindset of doing as much as we can to turn any negative into like a more of a lesson than anything.
And anti-fragility.
Exactly. So and we I would say probably the biggest source of negativity that might come that we might encounter isn't from like the outside world. Like I haven't experienced us getting like treated weird in like public places.
Oh yeah, no. I would say the number one thing is just like our inner selves, like and how we clash against each other.
Being raised in such different cultures and households, just the way that
just being so different from someone while being so close to them.
Yes, exactly. So that's probably the biggest source. And when it comes to outside, I mean, my dad is probably like the most difficult person we probably deal with when it comes to us being in an interracial relationship. But my dad is still one of the coolest people like that we know. So
yeah, I have nothing against her father, for example. So like, yeah. I mean,
so, and it sounds like you two might have maybe some clashing views then, right? But you've managed to withstand quite a long time.
It's interesting. We definitely do disagree on some things in general, but we agree on so much, and we happen to be the kinds of people where even just agreeing on 98% of things is basically like an impossible ask from everyone.
Right. And I would say that the cause of the contention when it comes to us being two different races isn't in our views. It's like our
attitudes,
ways of communication,
because almost always at the end of the day we agree on the merits and the substance, and what the underlying logic and what the proper solution to a problem is. Like, we almost always, 99.9% of the time, eventually we concur, but there are a lot of attitudinal and communicative things that can sometimes very violently get in the way.
Yes.
Before we get to that concurrence.
Right.
Okay, so on that note, I want to apologize if I was using any like substandard or non-PC terminology as far as
don't worry about that
stuff like that. But
no, really don't.
We understand the necessity not to get banned from the internet, and so we conduct ourselves in accordance with that. But naturally speaking, we are rather uncouth.
That's a kind way of putting it. Yes.
And communication is one of our biggest problems, right? I mean, it's the communication barrier. It comes between individuals and groups of individuals.
Definitely. I mean, it's a general problem that we have across, like, I mean, anytime you're talking about humans interacting with each other, I mean, no one communicates perfectly. I mean, the people who are great communicators tend to be like, pretty revered in society. So, I mean, if that's not a signal that it's something that we all need to work on, I don't know what else is.
Definitely. Okay. Okay. So we'll maybe shift gears a little bit, and if you two are open to it, most of my subscribers are atheists or people who are in the atheist content.
Mhm.
So is religion a factor in the relationship?
No, I mean we're both atheists. We both
We both essentially have been atheists since
before we
before we fell in love. So
yeah.
Okay. Has that affected your relationship with your families at all?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You want to go first on that one?
for me, not really. I mean, um, my family has a pretty high tolerance, I feel like, for differing views, and also a di- pretty large diversity of views already.
Especially with your mother, particularly.
And Carol and stuff. But
Yeah.
like, there's just lots of different opinions already in that family, and it's a very my mother is one of five children, and her father was an English professor, and so the house she grew up in was a very uh, scholastic, let's say, and she so there's a tolerance for diverse opinion, is what I'm trying to say. So in my life, it hasn't been problematic at all, really, that I am an atheist. I mean, only in my own personal petty context of, like, wanting a larger microphone or platform or whatever, but that's not really relevant. But Deidre, what about you?
Yeah. It's more of an issue for me in my I should say was more of an issue for me and my family. I was raised as a Jehovah's Witness. My mom was a believer, but my dad was not. My dad is and has my whole life been solidly agnostic. Um, he was also raised Jehovah's Witness, and when he was about 13, he decided to just step away from religion entirely, and he really never went back, and ended up with these views of he just doesn't know what's out there.
His religion is he watches Bill Maher
Yeah,
religiously.
religiously. So
And if he heard you say that, he would laugh.
yeah, yeah. And then he'd tell you to watch Religulous. And then my mom.
Oh, and also, just this is just a sidebar, but her father is a ex Major League Baseball player. That's just a random fun fact.
Oh, wrapping the facts. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he was. But anyway, my mom, she had a pretty rough childhood, and one of the ways that she kind of escaped that in her adult years was following this religion of Jehovah's Witness. And so it's a pretty close thing to her heart even today. So me and my siblings were all raised in this religion, and none of us are followers at this point. But when I was 13, around the same age that my dad decided to leave his religion, or to leave religion entirely, I basically did the same thing.
Your mom will believe till the day she dies.
Oh, I know. It's yeah.
That's
No,
deep inside.
it's deep. Yeah, yeah. So that's why. So when I decided to do that, at first it wasn't a huge deal, but as other problems with my mother came, with my relationship with my mom came when I was a teenager, boys, things like that. It became an issue then, especially in instances when me and my dad would get together. I had these Saturday night things with my dad. It was like the only day he was off work and could be home and do some family time, and we would often end up watching something or talking about something where we would end up making fun of people who follow religion, just and my mom would get really offended by the jokes and us laughing, and she would think we're talking about her personally, thinking we are calling her stupid, things like that. Sometimes we would get into some really pretty violent arguments about it, so yeah, it did create an issue in my teenage years. But I think that was mostly just some other. That was like a buildup of things, and religion wasn't like the main thing. That was the issue there, in especially the most tense moments. But it was definitely a layer for sure, for me at least.
Wow, that's deep right there. It sounds like we could do a whole nother podcast just on the religion. Have you ever done a deconversion story?
No, I haven't.
That sounds
Well,
like a good idea. Maybe you and her should just should do a podcast without me one of these days.
that would be amazing. I would also recommend Neil. He's got Neil 604 Atheist. He's got a much larger platform, and that's pretty much all he does. I was on a show a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that's
Great
so
guy.
cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Yeah,
Oh, that sounds
that would
fun.
be
So,
really cool.
are you two in a pretty close proximity to your parents, or do you have a long distance relationship now?
Um,
You go first.
Okay. My mom, she lives in Florida, so we're not very close. But my dad, he's only about an hour and a half away from me. Yeah. So, but Christopher's parents.
So my mother lives in Kentucky. It's only like a little over an hour away. So it's pretty easy to see her. I have a pretty good relationship with her now. That wasn't always the case, but in general, I've had a great relationship with her in my life. And my father, also have a great relationship with him. But that's a long fucking story, man.
Get into it, man. If you want.
I do want to. He lives in California. I didn't see him between the ages of 4 and 21. And so currently, my contact with him is somewhat limited, but that is something that I am accustomed to from my childhood. So it's not like not as emotionally damaging as it could be, I suppose. But it is, annoying that I'm so far away from him, especially since, I love him. He's my father. But, it is what it is. I'm sorry. What was your question?
No, I get you. You pretty well covered it. I just was wondering about your relationships now with your parents, and so to
Oh,
give like from my
yeah. So
perspective.
I would say we have good relationships. Both of us, I think, have good relationships with both of our parents. We have unique parents, very unique parents.
Yes.
They are special snowflakes,
Yes.
each one of them. But
Going back to the issue of maintaining the relationship, a lot of the issues I've had in my past were when my parents were too involved in my intimate relationships. You know what I mean? So I've
most of our parents are super hands off.
Yeah, that's something we have in common. Our parents.
The most hands-on person of all of our parents is my mother,
Hands down.
by a lot, and even she is like natural, she has a value. She values being hands off, like as a principal, even though she just sucks ass at doing it. You know what you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My parents, my dad, he's just by principle and by action, just in every core of his being. He wants to be
There's
as
no
least
part of him that isn't hands off.
Yeah, he just wants to be as least involved in anyone's problems as he possibly can. Like that's like just his go-to rule of thumb.
No. He wants to be as least involved in problems.
Yeah, problems. Period.
All problems.
Yes. And then my mom, she has what I call her style of parenting is cactus raising. You know, you give them water. That's it. You just go. Now I'm saying this. I love both my parents to death.
To death. Yep.
I love them to death. Okay, but that's just the God honest truth about both of them. So, but we totally hear where you're coming from about your parents.
Just like my parents, one of them is like one of them is like a forest dwelling. My father literally said to me when I met him at the age of 21, shortly after I reunited with him, he told me, by the time I finished high school, I had quit taking LSD because I took way too much.
Wow.
And that kind of blew my mind. And because I didn't know that much about my dad most of my life, you know. And but anyway, that was kind of a side note.
That's
I'm getting lost in my brain again. Fuck.
very interesting in of itself. I would love to hear more about that as well. Your stories with your dad. I've got some. Like my dad wasn't there when I was born. I met him when I was 2. We've had an on and off relationship, right? So, but we have a better one now, so I can relate to you there.
My dad was like from the from day one of my life. My dad was my best friend, and he basically still is. So you can imagine how I felt not seeing him at all between the ages of 4 and 21. But it was a very intense experience and paradigm shift for me getting to go back as an adult. I literally drove from Ohio to California in a car that shouldn't have been driving on roads. It had a busted radiator and faulty passive anti-theft system, which meant that half the time the computer would think you were trying to steal the car and not let you turn it on. I constantly had to put like coolant and eventually water into my radiator to keep my car from tearing itself apart. But I did drive from Columbus, Ohio to Sacramento, California at the age of 21 to see my father. And
that's quite a journey right there.
And that wasn't even the primary reason why I made that drive. No. It was because Deidra had decided to check herself into a fancy rehab facility, even though she wasn't really addicted to anything. But she just wanted to get away from things. So
in California.
Yeah, so she decided to check herself into a rehab facility on her father's insurance in California, and so that was why I drove from Ohio to California.
When I decided to leave after 30 days,
and it just so happened that I knew some people that lived in California, my father.
This has got to be one of the best stories I've heard today. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I lived. So I then lived briefly with my father and his mother and sister in his mom's house. She has a beautiful little place in Castro Valley in the Bay Area, and uh, and then I drove from there. I made another 8-hour drive. It took 3 days to drive across the country. I
How long ago was this?
Oh fuck.
Well, I'm 25 now, and I was 21 then. So,
About
Okay,
40.
gotcha.
Yeah.
uh, so, um, from there, I made another 8-hour drive down to L.A., Southern California, where Deidra was, or Deidre's her rehab facility was in Orange County, of all places. So I drove the 8 hours down there. I think I paid for a motel or something for the night.
Yeah, we yeah.
And cause fuck doing two 8-hour drives in a row. No, thank you. And then and then we come back, and that was a particularly roller coastery few chapters of my life. After that, we lived in Oakland, California, for a little bit. We lived in a couple places in California. We moved to Las Vegas briefly, and then we moved back to Ohio after that. So it's complicated.
Yeah.
Quite a saga. So I'll try to get us back on track, sort of, and what do
Good
you
luck, brother.
think is? Yeah, no, that was great. What do you think is the glue that binds you two together?
Oh wow. Probably just intellectual connection type deal. Something like that. What would you say, Christian?
Yeah, I think some combination of I don't want to speak for her too much, but I would venture to say that at the time that we met, we were both already people for whom hermit, loner, misanthrope was a not insignificant percentage of our identities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And nonetheless, our special, you could say, separate but equal flavors of hermit, loner, misanthrope just happened to intensely vibe with each other in a way that felt good. And so I think we originally and have always bonded primarily over just how pathetic we think everyone else is.
Yeah. I just didn't want to say that.
You have the hermit loner misanthrope cocktail here.
Right. Now,
Uh,
don't get me wrong. We are wonderful people.
Yeah.
We put on the show that we're supposed to, and we even enjoy doing that and think that that's the right thing to do. It's just that on an emotional level, there's a very large streak of hermit loner misanthrope.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we maybe will end the stream here after both of you tell us if you want people to find you on social media, where they can do that, and if you have anything upcoming. I know I've seen you doing some streams together.
Yeah, Deidra?
You can find me at Shelob, SHELOB 911 on Twitter. I think we'll be doing a couple things.
Yeah, we just started listening to a book by Thomas Sowell today.
Yes.
So we'll probably be making some content in relation to that and posting it in the next few days.
And I highly recommend anyone ever to read Discriminations and Disparities by Thomas Sowell. It will make you a better person, I promise.
And if anyone feels like finding me on social media, at Living is Binary on Twitter. And that's all.
Amazing. Thank you both for coming on, and I hope we can do this again soon.
Thanks,
oh my gosh!
Yeah,
thank
you. Fun.
Thank you so much, Kevin. We definitely have to do something else soon.
Awesome. Yeah, and maybe some psilocybin as well. We'll see.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Have a good night, Kevin.